All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mike Lowe. I am the Executive Director of the Service Academy Career Conference, and I want to welcome you to the webinar hosted by Neighborly. First, I just want to thank Neighborly for being such a tremendous sponsor to the Service Academy Career Conference. For those of you who are attending, if you have an entrepreneurial spirit and you are looking to start your own business, but the thought of doing that from scratch is daunting, which I definitely would, then you are in the right place. If you have a desire to help your community with a franchise, you are definitely in the right place. And again, cannot thank Neighborly enough for everything they do for the Service Academy Career Conference and to support our veteran community. And with that, without further ado, Brian, over to you.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Mike, and welcome everybody. Thanks for coming on and joining us today. I'll do some quick intros and then we'll get into the things. So I'm going to let Julie Davis introduce herself, and then I'll introduce myself. Julie?
Hi, yes, thanks, Brian. Thanks, Mike. Hi, guys. So happy to be here to help you explore business opportunities through franchising. I am a franchise developer with Neighborly. I cover 2 of our 19 brands. I have been in franchise development 26 years. I transitioned out of the Air Force straight into franchise development. So I have a little knowledge and insight into what that transition looks like, and I'm excited to be here to share with you today.
Thanks, Julie. And I'm Brian Wieters. I am the Group VP of Franchise Development here at Neighborly. Have been at Neighborly for 3 years now. I did not serve in active duty, but I am the son-in-law of a retired Army officer. So my father-in-law was a captain. His favorite line to use anytime he introduces himself, especially to another veteran and especially to Service Academy grads, is that he was the most feared man at West Point for 2 years, is his line. So he was the dentist at West Point for 2 years. And I've heard some West Pointers, including General Petraeus, say, yeah, he probably was the most feared man at the time. So, but at any rate, so I've been in franchising my whole career. So like Julie transitioned into franchising out of the Air Force, I transitioned from college to franchising and have been doing it ever since. So 36 years now I've been doing this and absolutely love what I do. I love educating people on the opportunities that exist through small business ownership, especially our veteran community. And we'll talk more about that as we get into our presentation. So first thing I want to do though is just play a quick video for you. Just to walk you through and tell you a little bit about who Neighborly is, because most of you probably have not heard the Neighborly name, but I can guarantee that you have heard of some of our 19 North American brands. So here are 19 North American brands. So Neighborly is the largest home services franchisor in the world. So we have 19 brands in North America. We have another 12 brands that operate in the UK and Germany. So making us the largest in the world. And you saw a number there that said about 400 new franchisees over the last 18 months. Over the last 2 years, of those 400 plus franchisees that have joined, a little over 125 of those are veterans. Neighborly is very, very committed to recruiting veterans as franchise owners, as well as in employing veterans as employees within the franchises. So it's part of what it's kind of built into our DNA. as far as who we are. And Julie will talk a little bit later about VetFran and how we got involved with VetFran and that kind of thing as well. So we've got some of the numbers: 32 brands, like I said, worldwide, 19 in the US. There's 19 verticals or industries within those 32 brands, because some of our brands do the same thing. Since we have international brands, as an example, Molly Maid is our residential cleaning brand here in the United States, in North America, and Bold and Beautiful is our residential cleaning brand in the UK, as an example. So those are two different brands, do the same thing. That's why there's 19 verticals, not 32. A little over 5,500 franchise locations in worldwide now, about 2,000 employees that work for Neighborly. And most of our Neighborly employees are based in either Dallas or Waco. Those are the two headquarters that we have. And then we have about half our employees between those two places, and the other half are remote. About 14 million customers in our database. 4 million of those customers are active customers. I'll explain that here in just a minute as far as what an active customer is for Neighborly. And we service 1.5 million properties annually in North America, and $4.1 billion in system-wide sales in 2023. Our 2024 numbers will be finalized here in about 3 or 4 weeks. Our active customers, the reason you see that active customer number a little bit lower than our total customer number, at Neighborly, we define an active customer as any customer that's done business with a Neighborly brand in the last 36 months. The reason that's so broad of 36 months versus being a much smaller timeline is our brands are very different as far as how often they service clients. You have on one end of the spectrum, you have a Molly Maid, as an example. The average customer at Molly Maid is serviced every 2 weeks, right? Or you may have a Mr. Rooter, our plumbing brand, that may do a plumbing repair for a customer and not see that customer again for 5 years. All right, there's a big wide range there in service times and cadence. That's why the active customers are defined as any customer that we've done business with in the last 36 months, as to why that's there. A little bit about franchising, because it's more of this call is really just to educate you in franchising in general and the opportunity that exists for transitioning service members or even people that have already transitioned out and are looking for their next thing, and why franchising, we believe, is a great opportunity for somebody, for veterans, and why they are such a good fit for it. All franchising is a distribution model. That's what it is. It's a distribution model to get, how do I expand my business and get my product into more people's hands, utilizing local business owners who are franchised, licensed to use my trademark and to use my products and services, right? And to resell those to the end customer. That is what franchising is. It's not an industry. You'll hear franchising described as an industry a lot of times, but it's not an industry. There are multiple industries represented within franchising, but franchising is a distribution model. So, but unlike starting something from scratch on your own, you now have an established system, some brand name recognition, operating systems, and processes that are already in place and have already been proven over time with a franchise model. Right. So most of our brands at Neighborly, as an example, at Neighborly, most of our brands are what you would call mature brands. They're no longer emerging. They all have 150 or more locations, every brand we have. However, a lot of our brands are over 400 locations. So we've been around a long time, and our brands have been around a long time. So it's a proven model that you're stepping into that gives you, hey, here's the operating system. Here's what you do. Here's how you operate it. Here's how you launch it. Here's how you expand it. Here's how you scale it. And all of these things we've tested over time to know they work. And we've done it in multiple different markets to know that what a market looks like and where we can and cannot operate, right? So why would you think about franchise business ownership? Like I said, proven business model with brand name recognition. There's support from the franchisor. There's a lower risk compared to starting from scratch. On average, if you look at SBA statistics, so Small Business Administration loan statistics, right? The average small business is independent. You've got about roughly 80% of those businesses are out of business within 36 months. On the franchise model, as a rule, on those averages, you're looking at about flip that. So instead of 80% failing, 85 to 90% are still in business after 36 months on the franchise side. So it's a complete flip-flop when it comes between independence and franchise models. And the reason for that is that system, right? The fact that we've proven it's worked over and over and over again, and you're able to use it. You're not in business by yourself. You've got a lot of help whether that helps coming from existing franchisees in the system or from the parent company, from Neighborly or one of our brand support teams, wherever that's coming from, you've got that at your fingertips. The reason that we've found our veteran franchisees are so successful, and the reason we like having franchisees that have come that are veterans, one, they're used to operating within a system. Y'all have done it for many, many years. You're used to adapting and overcoming. You're used to just making things work, regardless of what's handed to you. You make it work. Failure doesn't seem to be an option for most of our veteran franchisees. And that's why when I look across Neighborly and you look at our top guns, which are our top franchisees in every single brand, if I look at my top guns across all 19 brands, you will find that a large percentage of them, 30, 40, 50% of our top guns across brands are veterans, as far as what their background is. It includes active duty service. And we find that they tend to be much more successful than their counterparts that did not serve. And a lot of it is, I've heard Patrick Alcorn, who heads up the veteran relations and veteran activities at University of Texas at Arlington. I've stolen this from Patrick, but Patrick relays it to the fact that the reason he sees franchise or veterans be so successful as franchisees and franchise brands is because as you exit the Department of Defense, you're exiting the largest franchise in the world. Right, the DoD is it's a recognizable brand worldwide. Each of its branches has their own uniform, their own operating procedures, and you're just used to it. Right, it's no different when you step into a franchise model. It's almost identical in how we operate. There's a standard operating procedure. There are uniforms. There is a culture within each brand that's different. There's a camaraderie between owners within each brand, right? That happens, and that's where I think our veterans find all of that to be very unique within the franchise space and small business ownership space, versus going to work for taking a corporate job or going to work for a defense contractor or something like that, which tends to be the way that most go. So, Julie, I'm gonna hand it off to you and let you kind of take us through the next few slides.
Great. So Brian talked to you guys about just the power of franchising. I want to talk to you a little more specifically about why I see Neighborly as such a great franchisor, especially for those in our situation where we came out of the military. The military provided us a framework and a path and the tools and resources, right? But we were still able to apply our Julie-ness or our own self to stand out, right, within our peer group and what have you. So when I think about how we can help you be successful, it all starts with preparation. All of the brands here have very robust training programs so that as you consider stepping into business ownership, to Brian's point, and the tagline in franchising in general is be in business for yourself, but not by yourself. So what we're going to hand you is the same type of opportunity as you joined when you joined the military. Again, you're joining an established system, and then you're going to take everything that you are very skilled at, and that is where you are going to lead to success. So when we look for franchisees to join Neighborly, there are a couple things that just really resonate with the veteran community. As Brian mentioned, about 30% of our entire brand system are veterans, right? And so the two things that I constantly talk to candidates about and veteran candidates about is, what am I looking for in a franchisee? What makes you a great franchisee? I'm going to say the very first thing is being a good manager of men. And in the military, we are taught from the very beginning, even when you're a low enlisted or a low officer, the leadership skills it takes to see yourself through any type of deployment or any situation. We provide you that same framework here at Neighborly, so that you have the support in the areas of things you might not be skilled in, whether it's finding marketing support, marketing vendors, or just any type of group purchase power, right? So all of our business owners, regardless of brand, are going to need resources and additional resources. So at Neighborly, we have an organization that is called ProTradeNet. It is our vendor management program. So we're able to provide to you as franchisees all of these vetted vendors, in addition to all of the processes and systems that we've put in place. We have the support inside and outside of Neighborly to help you be successful. Brian mentioned that a lower risk it is lower risk by far going into business for yourself with a franchise and that established business model and an established customer base. We know extensively who to market to for each of our brands so that we're driving appointments and customers to our franchisees. Let's see. I think we can go on to the next slide, Brian. So next mission, right? We would love to help you to put sights on your next mission, whether it's through us just educating you about franchising or specifically talking to you about how we can help you at Neighborly. But part of what I am so proud of working for the Neighborly organization is I now work for the organization where our founder was also the founder of VetFran. I've known of VetFran and their mission within franchising since I got involved in franchising. So it gives me great pride to now be representing the company and the founder that went to the International Franchise Association and said, here's a great program I have, and I think you need to adopt it. So VetFran is now a sponsored division and networking and additional resource for you through the IFA. So as you look to transition, there are a couple really great resources that can be available to you. I highly recommend looking at the SBA website, that Small Business Administration. I highly recommend looking at tools like International Franchise Association's website. And then you can also navigate to their VetFran. There is a wealth of information out there to help you to plot out your plan forward and understanding how to get there so that we can minimize the fear while showing you the path that you can provide that financial ability and financial stability and support to your family. There are resources that are available to veterans in general that might not be resources for a civilian leaving the workforce and going to a franchise. So there are a lot of resources out there for our specific transitioning veteran members so that we can make sure you're not feeling overwhelmed and unsupported as you navigate these resources. So we have another video to share with you that you will hear directly from our franchise owners. I'm going to call out that you're going to hear from a gentleman named Ralph Ware. Our next in-person SACC event is going to be in March in Atlanta. I believe the dates are the 12th and 13th of March in Atlanta. So if you've never been in attendance to one in person in this format, I highly encourage you to attend. We will have a panel of our veteran owners that will be there, including Ralph, who's one that you're going to see in this video.
This offered me a huge opportunity to get back with my family, and that was really, really a big thing.
I believe that when I transitioned out of the military, one of the big things I had to answer was why. I believe that having the small business and starting within the franchise model allowed me the space to start to redefine what that purpose was.
So why is Neighborly a good fit for veterans? Because again, the model's already established. So coming from the military, you're accustomed to a playbook. So it makes it a lot easier. If you're able to follow the directions, you're going to be successful.
I'm a big believer that veterans can do just about anything they set their minds to because of all that goes into taking that time and having that service. What I also believe is that the strength of a veteran is their ability to adapt and to overcome challenges. And the franchise model at least helped me because once I had the template, I can then apply all those skills that I'd learned in the military.
You know, in the military, especially in the Navy, I'm sure it's this way in all the branches, but we really, all of our promotions were based on our ability to lead. Even at the, E1, E2, we were still learning leadership every day or watching leadership. So, the leadership programs in the military are, they're second to none, really. So then to be able to lead people out in the field, we can't always lead them like we're on a battlefield, but we need to lead them, like we were trained to lead in the service. So that's really carried over for me.
And in that way, I was able to be effective. I was able to put those leadership principles, put the organizational management experience all to use in operating this plan or this operations plan for my business. And that's been, again, very, very, very helpful.
When we were considering what we wanted to talk to you guys about today, I was really drawing from my current conversations that I'm having with many veteran candidates, and realizing that when it comes to understanding how to invest, how to access capital, and how to get the business started, truly was one of the things that made I could see the fear in the eyes, because they just hadn't had to realize that one of these types of resources. And so talking through understanding how your business startup costs can look like, and the solutions that we already have, and the relationships that we have at Neighborly. Most of our brands have a very high SBA rating, which really lends to us having great lender relationships. But talking candidates through this when they are not familiar with how this process works, I wanted to make sure that we started talking about this a little bit earlier, right? There are many ways to obtain financing. Some of you guys are so well ahead of yourselves and have started investing and saving early, and have the opportunity to self-capitalize. There is traditional commercial bank lending that can help you to get started as well. I go back to SBA, right? The SBA is a great lending partner for us. Again, based on our SBA ratings for our different brands, but also available to you as veterans. I know that there are alternate lenders as well that can come in the form of, your community bank, or a lending relationship you already have in place. So we can help you navigate that as well. What's going to be most important to those lenders as you approach them for a franchise loan, they're going to really look for the stability of the franchisor first. So sometimes that's why it's easier to use some of the lenders that we already have relationships with, because now they're just getting to know you instead of having to get to know you and us as a business model. And so that's where we typically try to work with our candidates to bring them into some of our lending partners. There's another loan opportunity. It's called a ROBS 401k rollover loan. So for those of you that have been able to put away money towards your retirement, there are certain rules that would allow you to take that and roll that money without a penalty into a business loan to get a new business started. And as you talk to franchisors, one of the things you might consider is asking them, do they do any type of franchise financing? So sometimes the franchisors will provide that loan as well. Lastly, your power of your network, right? It's very common in our investment level, in our business startup, that it's often family and friends that come together with our veterans to become partners into that business alongside them. Sometimes that's a silent investor. Sometimes that may be a gift. Definitely lots of opportunities and paths forward to being able to fund and get into a small business by yourself. And all right, how to get started. So there, again, as I said, so many resources available for you. There are franchise business consultants. There are franchise business coaches. There are career coaches. As you transition, I know the military has given you great resources I encourage you to reach out and reach out to me and Brian. Whether it's agnostic to brand, we love franchising and helping to support folks as they transition into it and set you up for success. So leverage your network, leverage the resources available to you. Ask all the questions, right? I often hear from franchisees who, and Brian will know exactly who I'm talking about, who we have gotten to know well through their support of our efforts to recruit within SACC. And I asked them, what would they do differently? And they said they would have asked more questions, right? And so we highly encourage you to ask those questions. We don't want anything to be a surprise to you. I tell all candidates that I'm working with, I want you to hear the good, bad, and ugly from me. If you're hearing it from somebody else for the first time, I'm not doing my job. We are not here to give you rose-colored glasses. We want to make sure we are being as transparent and level setting with you to just guide you through this process, understand and explore the resources available for you. And then here, feel free to scan our QR code, which will take you into an inquiry form so that Brian and I can directly get back in touch with you and help you through any of your questions. I know most in the military that I've ever served with, we were not afraid of piping up and asking our questions when given the opportunity. But some may think there's a dumb question, which there's not, but you may want to hold it and ask it directly. But please utilize Brian and I as a resource to navigate any of these subjects. Again, whether it's Neighborly or it's just franchising in general, we love what we do and helping people to explore business ownership for themselves. So take a snapshot of that QR code, and we will be just an email or a text away.
And we'll open it up for questions now too. I know Mike's looking at the chat and can send us a question over.
Yep.
We're happy to answer any questions right now.
Yeah, Brian, thank you so much for presenting. First question out there, could you discuss initial investment required to start a franchise, just the generalities? I know it differentiates per business, but in general, the amount of money required.
Yeah, so most of our brands are going to be on the low end about $150,000 initial investment, on the high end about a $250,000 investment across any of our brands. And so of that amount, typically as veterans through the SBA, if you go the SBA route, it will take as little as 10% cash down on that, as much as 20%, but as little as 10 to do those loans to use the SBA for that processing. There's a couple of different places we use that we work with on veteran specific loans as well for us that know our brands well and will process things quickly. But that's really it's as little as say $15,000 to $25,000 of cash to get into business.
Awesome, thanks, Brian. And the next question is, that someone has seen your 19 brands and wanted to know if there's any desire or thoughts about an opportunity within the travel industry going forward.
Probably not for us. I mean, the home services space, we do have other verticals we're looking for from an acquisition standpoint that we want to add to our mix. Travel has not been one of those that we've looked at as far as those options go, but there are some great travel franchises available that I'd be happy to point somebody in the right direction to look at. So
awesome. So those are two questions I have in the question and answer board. Please, for the attendees, if you have questions, please put them out there. You heard Julie state that, one of the biggest things people always said they wish they did was answer more questions. So this is a great chance to start that, to get questions that are out there. While I'm waiting for someone to type, I'm going to ask a question, if you don't mind, Julie and Brian. Sure. I know you said that, you have the opportunity to do research. What do you say to someone who knows they want to go into the business for themselves? They know they want to do a franchise. They know that they want to do it in this home industry because they see it as a market that's viable for the future, but they just don't know which of those 19 brands is best fit for them.
Right.
I'll hop in on that one if you don't mind. Yeah. I would say find something you're passionate about. Find something that aligns with something you enjoy, right? Is it, having a heart for service, right? So you want to maybe engage with your customers a little closer. Or do you want to really just be managing your teams and leading them so that they're more customer facing? Really build and select a business from your strengths. Know your strengths, right? And know your weaknesses, and then look for a business that can complement those. I would also say definitely do your research on that franchisor. All franchisors are governed by the Federal Trade Commission. And so when you go through the discovery process, there is something called a franchise disclosure document. I would highly recommend that you ask for that document as a tool to be able to have greater insight into the performance of that franchisor's locations. And so, again, ask the questions, be honest with yourself about what your skills and strengths and weaknesses are, what you're passionate about, and see if there's a business model that fits very naturally that you would be able to walk around and lead for, right? I represent 2 great brands out of our 19. And as soon as I start talking about them, I am off to the races because I can very, very clearly share with you the successes, the passion that I have for building these businesses, right? So find that in yourself and use that as your guide to who might be your best franchise partner. Last thing I'll tell you on this is be open-minded. In addition to thinking about what you're really good at, if you utilize a business coach or a career transition coach, let them challenge you. Let yourself be challenged during your process. And then the last thing to say is, I encourage you to not just start talking to Mr. Appliance. Talk to and research Mr. Appliance and the competition. Be very thorough in your due diligence. Ask all the questions.
Thanks, Julie. Brian, anything to add?
No, I think Julie covered it well. That's exactly what you want to do, is the research side. The other thing I would say that I hear from a lot of our owners, not just our veteran owners, but all owners in general, when you ask them if they do something differently, one of the first couple things out of their mouth is going to be, "I wish I'd done it sooner."
Yeah.
So they always wish they had done it. I wish I had made this decision a lot sooner in my life than I did. Never too late to do it. But there's operating your own business and building wealth through your own business is the number one way to build wealth in the US. So it's and that's proven time and time again that's how you do it.
Awesome.
Brian, I'd love to add to that. And the follow-up question is, I love when we put some veteran owners, and veteran in the sense of not us military veterans, but people who have been in the brand for a while, but putting those legacy owners, right, together with some of our newer owners. And the first question is, what would you wish you'd done differently? And that's started sooner. And then the follow-up question always is, what's your biggest piece of advice to me as a newbie? And the answer 100% of the time is, I wish I just followed the system. And so, as you guys know, following a system is imperative, because somebody wiser, smarter before us has laid that out for us. They've navigated the mistakes. But I love that. I love hearing our legacy owners. That's the biggest piece of advice after I wish I'd done it sooner, is I wish I'd followed the system.
Awesome. So I got a couple questions here around sort of the average revenue and profit margin, specifically for the first year. Like what, I know it varies widely, location, brand, industry, et cetera, but just in general, what do you see for revenue and then profit margin for that first year?
Yeah, so every brand in our portfolio, when you go through the process, you receive what's called a franchise disclosure document, an FDD. That's the document the Federal Trade Commission requires any franchisor to put together and register with the states. Within that document, there will be an item that it's called a financial performance representation. It's just a fancy word of telling you, here's what the existing owners are doing from a revenue standpoint. And it may be broken down in any number of ways, Most of ours are going to be broken down by quartile. So you'll have the top 25% down to the bottom 25%. And you'll see average revenue, median revenue, high and low within each of those quartiles. You'll see that on some of our documents. If it's a brand that has a recurring average ticket, right? They're going to show you the average ticket. What's that look like, both for experienced owners and new owners? Number of clients on an annual basis. It'll show you that. That's the type of information that you'll find in that item within the disclosure document. And because of the rules and regulations around franchising, me or Julie as company representatives can only speak to what is in that document. We can't talk about any other numbers from a financial performance standpoint other than what's in item 19. We only have one brand, which is Junk King, which is one of Julie's brands that discloses any kind of a gross profit margin. Junk King does, but none of our other brands do. So we can talk about gross profit margin on Junk King. For those brands that don't disclose profit margin and such, that's where we put you in contact with franchisees. You have the opportunity when you go through the mutual evaluation process with any franchise brand, regardless of us or anybody else. You have the opportunity and take advantage of the opportunity to talk to existing owners. That's where you'll get most of your financial information is from the existing owners when you're asking them those questions. So Julie, I don't know if you wanted to share Junk King's numbers by any chance, since we do disclose there, but that's up to you.
I was very, very astutely trying to not shamelessly plug my two brands. But I apologize if there's background noise, because the other brand I have is Molly Maid, and they are here cleaning my home today. So I bleed neighborly, guys. I will use grounds guys. I will use Jim Cook, who you saw in the video. He is my groundskeeper. His company is, right. And so I use Junk King. Just had 2 trucks in my driveway, and now my Molly Maid team's here. So on the Junk King side, we do produce our gross profit margin. So our average gross profit margin at Junk King is 49.2%. Now there is a difference, right, between gross and net. There are 4 costs that we don't bring into our gross profit margin because they vary by territory, right? Are you in Biloxi, Mississippi, or are you in, downtown LA? So those 4 variable costs are so fluctuate across all of the country. We pull those out. And then to Brian's point, you get to talk to existing owners, ask them about what is their labor, what is their, truck note, what are all these things that they can very specifically answer for you. I do want to add to your question about what does that first year performance look like? Back to lending. This is what I think is always such a surprise to the candidates I work with, is understanding how the loan can go above and beyond and provide you additional working capital for that first year, right? So all of our requirements that we come to publish as individual brands all comes back to the ability to get you financed. Again, back to our high SBA rating. For an example, to start a Junk King, the low end is $90,000, the high end is $180,000. But again, back to our high SBA rating, we qualify for a SBA Express program of a loan up to $300,000 to start a Junk King. So again, I didn't mean to bring it down to what I'd love you to come talk to me about, but I want to use those as real examples to understand, okay, why would I get a loan for $300,000 when it's only going to cost me $90 to $180 to start this business? Because it's going to actually give you that working capital as you're building that business in the first year, which should remove some of the fear of, can I pay my mortgage? Can I keep my life on? Will I make payroll? So that's where I see an aha moment when I'm talking with folks and talking through veterans through that lending process. Most had never considered or worked with a commercial bank for a commercial loan. So.
Awesome. Got a really good question here. Are most new franchisees purchasing from existing franchisors or launching new businesses in other locations?
They mean, are they buying an existing business versus starting one from scratch? I think
Yes.
that's what they're asking.
Yes.
So for us, we do, in addition to the new sales that we do every year, which is about a little over 400 of those a year, we'll also do about 200 resales. So where a business is being purchased, right? An existing one is being purchased by a new buyer. So it's about 50% of our, a third of our total transactions are resales.
Can you and Julie discuss a little bit about, I know again, it depends, but just like, what are some of the criteria for putting a business in a new location? Is it strictly population driven, or what are the factors that really come into play if I want to put a Junk King in the Outer Banks of North Carolina?
So
Yeah, go ahead, Julie, with that one,
I-
Junk King.
just because we're continuing with mine, I'll use two, again, just really great live examples, because that is a great question. So on Junk King, it's a density play, right? We're not as concerned about the demographics, right? Because in a lower income area, the customer changes, the need doesn't change, right? But then in Molly Maid, so on Junk King, it's straight population. We're going to look for a minimum population of 500,000 and go from there. Now on Molly Maid, we very distinctly know who our core customers are. And so it's like this for many of our brands. We all know who our core customers are. So we build in based on population and density too. But we want to make sure there's a greater concentration of our target customer in your territory. So many of our brands already know who we're marketing to drive appointments to our franchisees' books. And so we're going to establish those territories to make sure that whoever that end customer is makes up the greater concentration of that territory. Brian?
Yeah, so it's either population based like Junk King, which is just straight population, or it's going to be targeted household or targeted customer based, which is more demographically driven, right? So a targeted household could be, I need X number of households that have a minimum of $100,000 in household income, right? That's my target client. So I need a number of those in my territory to make it a successful territory. So some of our brands are that way. Other brands, like I said, are just straight population, and some are a mixture of demographics within that. So Molly Maid, like Julie mentioned, is a mixture of several different demographic factors that we have in a formula to create a territory, right, of targeted households. And so we really do dig into it pretty deep because of having 19 brands and having all the data we have on clients, on customers across all those brands. Each of our brands is able to dig in really deep into their client data and know exactly who they're trying to market to.
Interesting question here. It goes, how would an already established company who's interested in opening up to franchising work with Neighborly?
Yeah, I don't know if you'd work with Neighborly directly necessarily to do that. If you've got something where you think, hey, I think this could be a franchised concept that I could expand through franchising, then there are franchise incubators, if you will, companies that specialize in that. And to see, hey, is this a scalable business? Going to be scaled pretty easily with with a set of operating systems from market to market. But there are ways to do that. Neighborly doesn't really get involved in startup emerging brands for the most part. When we bring a brand on, it's usually a mature brand that already has 100+ locations. So I don't know that we would be the right ones to work with, but there are companies out there that will work with that are looking for the next thing to bring to market.
So I want to go back real quick. I've heard you mention territory on several occasions. Can you just briefly say, like, when you say a territory, is that like 5 city blocks? Is that 5 counties? I know it depends, but can you just briefly talk about what a territory means?
Yeah, all of our territories are laid out by zip codes, right? And it'll be what we're looking at in each of those zip codes as we're building out, contingent zip codes, or contiguous zip codes, I should say, contiguous zip codes to build a territory based on that total we're trying to get to of either population, like Julie said, 500,000 people for a Junk King, or am I getting it to a targeted household? So as an example, Lawn Pride, which is our turf care brand, route-based model. At Lawn Pride, I need to have at least 45,000 households with a household income of 100,000 or more. And so I'll just keep attaching zip codes to get to that number or more than that, right, to build out a territory. And then that territory, all of our brands save one, which is Real Property Management, offer a protected territory. So it's not exclusive, only because it's protected in that we're not going to put another franchise of the same brand in that territory. right? It's your territory and you're protected in that regard. It's not exclusive because you could have a situation where another franchisee comes in to do business there, whether it's a national account or it's an account they already had that they want to come do, they can come do that one account with your permission. That's why we say it's not exclusive, it's protected.
Awesome. Thanks for answering my
And I-
follow-on question.
I'm gonna tag on to that too. I want to mention when we talk when you go to our website and you start looking and investigating about the startup costs for our specific brands, know that a lot of it is very asset light, and the two biggest line items that we usually put into our
Yeah.
startup forecast is going to be your initial franchise fee, which buys you that territory, right? We will award it to you, but you're going to buy that, and that's going to be an asset that you have that you've received from us. So one of the biggest line items is the initial franchise fee. As veterans, every single one of our brands provides a discount. I have 15% on Junk King off. I have 20% off on Molly Maid. But again, that is our testament to how much we love working with the veterans and welcoming them into our brand, is to be able to provide that discount. So just wanted to add that on as to how you purchase the territory.
Awesome. Any other questions out there? I know there's one question, housekeeping item in the question and answer that I didn't get to, but I will get to it at the end, I promise. Just want to see if there's any other questions out there for Brian or Julie. All right, Brian, Julie, anything in closing before I do one final housekeeping note?
Yeah, I think there's the QR code's there for you to get more information on the veteran programs within Neighborly. So you can scan that QR code there. There's lots of things in there. There's even a quiz in there you can take to kind of narrow down brands if you really want to look at certain brands. That's on that. That's it. You'll find that through the QR code. I want to thank you for your time, and we really really enjoy working with SACC. We have now we're going on our 3rd year with SACC, and looking forward to the Atlanta live event face to face. Those of you that can attend, we highly encourage you to do so. There's a lot of information shared during SACC during the educational sessions on the first day, and then during the career fair and such on the second day. We're there. We'll have a panel that we'll present with franchisees. We'll be there during the career fair as well to answer questions. So we'd love to talk to as many of you as we can.
Awesome.
Just a final sign off. I thank you for your time. I liken being in a franchise to being in the military, right? We had our built-in community. We knew who we could go to in addition to our leadership for that peer support. And that's much like what you're joining when you join a brand in a franchise organization. I feel that very much same kinship with our franchisees as I did with my fellow military members as I was in the Air Force. So thank you again. Just wanted to share that note because it is a community.
Awesome. So Brian and Julie, thank you so much for doing this for our Service Academy graduates. As they were saying, we really hope to see you in Atlanta here in just a couple weeks. It's hard to believe it's right around the corner. To answer the question, yes, this is recorded and it's going to be posted on our SAC website. Please contact either Tanya or Melissa if you can't find it. Well, it will be uploaded on the Service Academy Career Conference webpage. This whole thing is recorded and you'll be able to see it there. So you'll also have access to the slides through that venue. If you need anything from us, you know how to reach us. Please just reach out to Tanya, Melissa, and we're happy to help. And again, Neighborly, thank you so much for your time and effort today. Greatly appreciated.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Mike.
Yep.
Thanks.
Cheers. Everybody have a great day. Take care.
Atlanta, everybody. Thank you.
See you in a few weeks, Julie. See you, Brian.